Welcome back to the Xenon Spring Burst Open Qualifiers. I am Alias once again being joined by Yali.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going well. We got to cast a fun game with Roy's Silly Animals versus Predator X Gaming, where PXG ended up taking the dub 7-3 off of some rounds.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting game to say the least. A couple of rounds of diffusers being left outside and so on and so forth. But we're not here for that game. We've actually got a really, really exciting one lined up for you guys. And it's going to be SLB versus Bros without Hose. Let's go ahead and take a look at those rosters really fast.
So Team SLB is Wi-Fi, Rice, Nick, Asian, and Spiff versus Bros Without Hose, which is Joe, Mike, Hectic, Snoopy, and Nilek.
Yeah, that's SBL. The graphics over there, they're right. And yeah, I mean, look at these teams. If you look at SBL, you know that a handful of these players coming from Certified Lover Boys, the roster that made absolute waves during Element 2, out here playing against. I mean, this is going to be a fun game. Let's
Oh
just be
yeah.
realistic here. And while Bros Without Hose is a little bit more puggy, I think they might just have the surprise factor needed to actually maybe put those certified lover boys on SBL. Maybe just give them a little bit of a run for their money.
So let's see if that is the case. I do think that the caliber of players on Bros Without Hose is enough that we could probably see some decent upset potential, especially if they're able to activate the energy that wanted goons like to run around with. We do have the map bands ready as well, so we could go take a look at those, figure out where this battle is going to be taking place, and what that entails.
It's on bank. We're gonna be going to the money land. And we're,
Shame we didn't go there
and
with Benji Mula.
yeah, too bad we didn't go with Benji. No, but we're gonna be on bank. Obviously, this is one of the 9 maps that we have in our competitive pool. I'm not sure that much what else there is to say about it that you guys don't already know. I mean, it's a big map. It's defender sided just like every other map in the pool right now. So
Yeah,
the fact that
the
we're going to be going there, I'm really excited to see how these two teams are actually able to clash and make use of the actual full space. But we'll be getting into the game in just a second. But Ali, do you have any predictions?
my prediction is that whichever team is able to utilize the defense best, or rather be more proficient on the attack, because right now it has a 62% defender win rate. Bank does. And so, because of that, you're kind of expecting the team that is on defense to win the round. But if we do have a team that is able to be more proficient on the attack and just go that little bit further, that's probably going to be the team that ends up kind of taking this whole thing.
Speaking of attack, maybe starting things off with fans on that side, Ying coming off the board. No surprise to anyone. Uh, Obviously, that's going to be one of our operators that we like to use as a spearhead to drive straight through the armor of the many, many tools that defense has available, and as well as Twitch, able to get through a lot of those defenses, smaller gadgets, even some larger gadgets, just clearing them out without really having to expose yourself whatsoever. Seeing those two off the board, not surprising in the very least.
First defense ban coming out here, being done by SLB in just a second. And that's going to be Cade, which is a less common ban, but still one that makes sense in my opinion, as he is able to very proficiently keep the hatches on the basement site closed. And combined with a good two-bro player, that can kind of be hell on earth to deal with a lot of the time. Now we're going to be seeing the second defense ban come out here, and that's going to be Valkyrie, which means that we do have kind of the big four left up on the board, that being Azami, Solas, Fenrir, and Tubero. But some information is being denied here, which is going to give the attack a little bit of an easier time kind of setting things up without the defense spying on them.
I, I feel like a little bit though, Valkyrie isn't necessarily the ban anymore. You just have to bring it IQ. Just given the fact that y- Maestro has so many cameras, there's bulletproof, so on and so forth. Like there's so many other options outside of Valkyrie. But in any case, we do have the Valkyrie band. It's not going to be something that either of the teams are going to have to worry about that. And that might be a good reason to not have to bring the IQ. Now you get to bring something else, like for example, an Osa, right? Or an Ash, very powerful operator, versus the Miras, who, might I mention, Mira's on the board. normally brought on this basement defense, but no longer. And I think so much of that just speaks to the fact that Ashe is now just such a hard counter to Mira. The fact that she's being brought speaks to just how important that is in today's meta.
I think as well, Mira is a pretty common ban on this map, so it would be kind of understandable, I think, if SLB didn't have strategies with her in place just because they're assuming that she's going to be banned out when they start this. So we're going to see Nihilek kind of start off the round here by getting into the dirt tunnel. Hectic is making his way over there as well. Mike W looks like he wants to try to put through garage here. There is an extension upstairs, which means SLB, they want to hold things down. They want to try to get back to the site kind of as the round progresses and just waste time. And it looks like Bros Without Hose might want to try to circumvent that if they can.
Additional entry, nothing too interesting happening yet. There are 10 drones on the board, which I think is kind of interesting. Normally, you're going to end up losing a couple of those, trying to get them into pre-place positions. Pre-place positions that are so powerful because you don't expect a drone to be there. But usually you'll lose a few in the process. And while the first drone has come off the board with that Dokkaebi call coming through and a kill finally onto Wi-Fi, one of our defenders, and Mike as well finding the second, but an aggressive play not quite going to work out as it's getting shut down. But there it is, Bros Without Hose finding a very aggressive and effective opening round. That's 3 kills from Mike W. And while that's not going to be enough to solidify the round, it's all up to Spiff, the final remaining member of the Certified Lover Boys and Team SBL, out here just trying to stay alive, but he's so blind. There's no seeing allowed. Yeah, and that's going to be a beautiful play by Bros Without Hose. I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier on. Just finding some of this aggression, finding some of these moments to really get in there and cause trouble for a team that isn't really going to be expecting it in Team SBL.
So the thing about kind of like the types of defenses that SPL were running that round is like if the team that you're playing against tries to clear top down, it wastes a ton of time. But Bros Without Hose kind of realized that like there was a pretty big gap on site. There was only one player actually physically on the site itself, and everyone was top floor. So their plan was basically just to get onto the site and dislodge whoever was there, and then just kind of kill the defenders as they came in and tried to go for that retake. And we end up seeing Mike W in a pretty powerful position in that kind of like garage bottom marble area, get a 4K and solidify the round for his team.
I like, I I really like that they brought Capcan. I think that's pretty slick, especially with the Twitch off the board. You've seen a lot of Capcan traps being removed by Twitch drones, and that's not going to be the case in this round. How much you want to bet at least one player dies to Capcan traps?
Oh, I hope so. It's always really funny.
It is always really funny. And to be honest, it's not even that surprising anymore. He's such a commonly brought operator that seeing a player die to a Capcan trap just because they're getting aggressive, they're looking for something, especially in a team like Bros Without Hose, wouldn't be surprising to me at all.
Yeah, Capcan grows more powerful the less drones you have or the less you use the drones that you do have. So, depending on the proficiency of the drone work from Bros Without Hose, we'll kind of see how that goes. Much lower attack this round, as there's not as easy of a gap to just kind of walk into the site as there was in the previous round. So, Bros Without Hose, you're just going to kind of set up in these kind of crossfire positions and just see if they can prevent SBL from rotating around, see if they get a pick or two, and maybe see if they can find that kind of gap that they're looking for.
Yeah, Mike once again playing in a very comfortable cut-off position there with 2 big long hallways, able to just be completely denied for the defenders by the player. 4 kills in 1 round. But not quite going to be enough. There it is. Opening pick. It's going to be Asian now looking for Mike, but the trade's going to come through. Unsurprisingly, but Joe with some more aggression. That's going to be another kill on the board. And suddenly, Bros Without Hose finding themselves in an advantage yet again.
Up 5-3 now. The castle mid taking up the board, so that is a C4 down. Although the castle, all of his utility is going to be on the ground already. Vertical play is going to be done above kind of that archives area now, so any defenders that might be in that area can be flushed out. Wi-Fi does have a C4 and he is sitting underneath soft floor, which means that if someone tries to go in and open the hatch, that could spell death, although they are smartly going to avoid standing above that area.
Very wise from Team S, or sorry, from Team Bros Without Hose. But for now, just the calm before the storm. At any moment now, this whole lobby is going to explode. Here it goes. Joe looking to be ready to drop.
Any moment
I
now.
think they're expecting a retake.
I think they are potentially expecting a retake or perhaps some miscoordination happening. Heck, they're going to try to get himself inside of the printer window. The drop's going to come out, but Wi-Fi is ready. Gets the first, almost gets the second, but second ends up being taken out by Hectic. Rice does get Nihilect, though. It's a 2v2 with only 5 seconds left. First kill comes out, second as well. The lockout on the site. Nick and Rice play it perfectly and tie us up 1-1.
I really, I know you used the ash charges for those long hallways that I mentioned before, and I think that is a good use of those ash charges. But that is an execute that simply cannot be done if the printer wall is closed up. You have to open that up and the little soft wall next to that double door, or else you just don't have any control over the site. Trying to drop in there is a death sentence
Mm-hmm.
for that exact reason. We saw the Capcan able to just sit in that corner, do nothing. He just shot like a few bullets and completely shut down the entire push. As well as the fact that it just kind of looked like Bros Without Hose. I mean, they had drones in their pockets still. Didn't use them. They just kind of looked like they were, you know what, let's throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. And it's not going to stick, especially if you don't know the take well enough to actually set it up properly. Because you have got to have those softballs open if you want that to work.
Yeah, I think as well. Bros Without Hose is going to be less structured, kind of because they are, at least to my knowledge, a pug stack, and so the aggression they pulled off in the first round worked because there was a massive, massive gap that SBL wasn't really anticipating being hit, but that round they didn't leave that big gap, and they were expecting something fast to happen, and some of the take was just set things up and zoom. SPL were expecting the zoom to happen, and so it didn't catch them off guard in the way it needed to in order to work out. And so Bros Without Hose are gonna have to do a decent bit of adaptation here if they kind of want things to start going more smoothly for them.
Yeah, Bros Without Hose needs to get ready and start looking for that more disciplined old style of play. Not immediately, though. These fast, aggressive entries are working for them. And to be honest, I don't see them not working for them. They're setting up their early rounds very well. They're getting their drones in decent positions to be able to make sure that those positions that they're taking are solid and able to build these crossfires that lead to them finding one or two opening picks, as we saw in the last round. But later in the round, they aren't utilizing the tools that they have available to them. They did okay in that round, but they had 50 seconds left and went for an execute. They kind of fumbled around for a minute first, and then they went for an execute. And I think that confidence is just missing a little bit with Bros Without Hose. And yes, they're confident as individuals, but as a team, they haven't shown that ability to work together as a
Oh,
cohesive unit. Huh? Wi-Fi just killed Asian. They're on
think
the same team.
there was a little bit of just like he heard a noise and was expecting a gunfight, and as soon as he heard the noise, it was lights out. It was a nasty
Yeah.
flick, in all
Well,
fairness, but it does even out the man count that he had just gathered.
yeah. I mean, it was a great opening pick, and I was just about to comment on the fact that that's suddenly going to leave Bros Without Hose in a worse spot than they've been in the last 2 rounds at this point. But with the trade, at least it doesn't look abysmal, right? But I will say they don't have the ability to have the cutoff here the way that they developed during that first round because of these two players, the two vector wielders here in Garage, denying any sort of entry through there. If they really want to have those big cutoffs, they're going to have to do something about those players. But instead, there's not really a whole lot developing. You're looking for something, trying to build an attack, but so far nothing's developing because SBL just hasn't given them anything.
Minute 20 seconds left. We do have some hatches open. We do have some ground taken, but SBL, even aside from Wi-Fi refragging his own opening pick, SBL hasn't really done anything that is going to allow Pros Without Host to get onto the site. So they have to create the gap themselves, or they have to find the minuscule area that is not being properly defended, which right now isn't really being exposed a lot.
Yeah, to me, it looks like a red drop here is going to be imminent, and with a little bit of pressure from Garage, things might start to get hectic. A call comes through, and that could be the beginning of the end of the round.
Gonna see Mike W trying to make his way in garage off of this call. It doesn't really look like he knows where Nick is, or if he does, he's being fairly cautious. There is a phone call ringing in his pocket. Wi-Fi gets a second onto Snoopy. Mike gonna make his way in garage, but taken out. Spiff tags on for one as well, leaving it all up to Hectic. He's gonna try to drop Vault here, just see if he can get anything going. Gets one onto Wi-Fi. Gonna look for the gunfight inside of Gold, but so far nothing reveals itself except for a smoke canister. He's gonna be able to walk in Gold around it, but still gonna delay some time, deal some damage as well, most likely. Goes to the pick, gets one down, and isn't able to secure it as Rice locks things out.
Yeah, very simple round, and like I mentioned, SBL just not they are not giving Pros Without Hose anything. They just sat back and what? Yeah, Wi-Fi killed Asian. That's obviously a mistake. It happens, but it is a mistake. But even beyond that, they said, okay, well, we don't really have to do anything. We found a pick that's going to deny a good amount of a good amount of aggression and ability to spearhead through the defenses that we have. We're on basement on bank. It is wildly difficult to find an entrance there anyway. So they just said, "Hey, we could just sit back." I think there was a little bit of a gap there, very specifically with that red drop. No one was specifically watching it, and you could probably exploit that if you really had your timing down. But those with that hose has not shown their confidence as a team enough to be able to have that expertise to exploit such a small gap.
I think it is also worth noting that something we see, I think, kind of pretty frequently is that teams will kind of take like a round or two to figure out how their opponents like to play, and then once they kind of know like the win condition for their opponent, whether that be getting in fast and quick and getting the opener, or playing slow and steady, or some combination of the two, they'll kind of figure out how to play around that and lock things out. And they saw Bros Without Hose like to kind of be fast. They like to find the gap and then hit that gap and then force the defenders into awkward positions off of that. And so they're trying not to give nearly as many gaps like that and just play solid siege and hold down the site.
I like the way Bros Without Hose is setting up once again. This is a site that it's really hard to actually prevent any of those gaps or cutoffs from opening up. Bros Without Hose have shown their ability to exploit that. We see here very early on, we've already got players on the actual site windows themselves. We've got players opening up some of these long angles, but it's Mike finding the first death to Spiff with a wonderful shot. And now suddenly there's so much less pressure on SBL. You cannot be giving yourself up on those windows that early on.
Certainly cannot. Not like gonna get a drone down on Marble, but ends up being taken down by Asian. First floor is drone, only that's in a zombie barrier, but it's replaced immediately by Asian, which means more utility. He's gonna have to go to getting those off. And we're seeing a lot of Flores drones being used, but the shield still remains in place, and Spiff gets another on the Hectic. That's your vertical play down, and the man count dwindles more and more.
Man, Spiff don't whiff. Remember, this is a player that was at SI last year on Astralis, placed in
Top
fourth.
four.
Top
Yeah.
4. Incredible, and he's showing the reason why today here. Although this is tier 3, Wi-Fi and Asian cleaning it up as well. Bros Without Hose, nothing left other than a lone Joe.
Is that going to get a gunfight before Wi-Fi ends up peeking around the corner and taking him out? It's another round, another very convincing round, going the way of Team SBL as they make, I believe, a flawless site rotation.
Wi-Fi is lamenting his son. I don't I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, we're starting off the banter, right?
Joe is 75 years old. You can put that on his Wikipedia page. He said so himself.
Yeah, not an average Joe.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, one might say I don't an extraordinary Joe even.
Unfortunately, if things continue going the way they are, it'll be Jover pretty quickly for Bros Without Hose. They are attacking. I think we should mention that this is a map that has a 62% defense win rate in SI, but even kind of still, the proficiency and coordination we've kind of seen from Team SBL has been just that little bit better, that step above what Bros Without Hose are kind of giving us. And if that continues on to the attack, then that is probably going to translate into round wins, especially if they're able to get like a 4-2 or 5-1 half here.
To be honest, while the coordination that we've seen is excellent, let's be clear about that. It's not even always that. They've also shown the ability to be aggressive. Spiff finding those two early picks in the last round was absolutely influential in the way the rest of that round played out, ultimately ending up in a flawless. I mean, there's not much else to say about that other than Bros Without Hose getting aggressive, SBL deciding, hey, let's put it back in their face. Now, I will say SBL may be a little bit more vulnerable this time to the way that Bros Without Hose is taking this. Very different take. We're not seeing the same top down kind of deal that we did last time, although the ghost pressure would make it appear so. Instead, there's a lot of horizontal bottom up play that's going to allow Bros Without Hose to really crack open this site like an egg, but it's not going to happen. Joe, your hard breach is off the board. Suddenly, Bros Without Hose are down a player.
The only hard bridge now is a single charge in the hands of Hectic, and that's going to be have to use extremely wisely. But even if they can use that, you can no longer make a hole that you can walk through. You have to crouch or vault through that hole that he's going to make. If he's even able to get it open, and that could potentially be the death sentence for Bros House in this round. We do have Hectic getting a pick onto Wi-Fi, so that's your pulse off the board. But it's brought right back by Nick.
I don't know how hectic got here, but it's created a very hectic situation for Team SBL. Suddenly, they have a key position around the site completely occupied by BWH. And that's going to be a hard situation for them to deal with after all. Now they suddenly have so much less mobility through the site. That combined with the fact that the walls over by the printer are open and another kill by Hectic, suddenly this is looking like a very different round. And although SBL does still have a lot of top floor control, whether or not they'll actually be able to make action occur with it, that's going to be another question.
Spiff sits inside of Janitor right now. He does have a pretty powerful position here if he's able to do something with it, but although Nilek is most likely in place to keep that from happening. Mike W wants to try to get in here and plant the diffuser. Is going to start working on that. Asian's going to start moving as a result. Nick gets one, he gets two on the cover. And now it's all left up to Nilek. Sitting up in top square, he gets the first pick onto Spiff, but Asian doesn't let him get another one, and that's SBL winning 4 rounds in a row.
BWH is not shooting.
I believe the scientific term for that is game over, man.
That was awful. That was really bad. But no, I mean they're not shooting back, and while they are setting themselves up pretty well, they're following these like default checklists. SBL, they're smart players. They're element 2 players. They know what the checklist is, and if they can if they could just take some scissors and cut it in half, then that round's over. Losing your main hard breach that early on, that was a clincher. That was pretty much the whole round. The only opportunity they had after that was all on the fact that Hectic managed to find a gap and start to get aggressive, found 2 picks, but without any knowledge or control of the situation, which is something that I think BWH is really lacking knowledge and control. There was no ability to capitalize on the mistakes that SBL made that Hectic was able to exploit and find and bring to light.
Back down to the basement we go. The best site on this map, or I would believe statistically, but at least in my historical experience, playing and consuming competitive Rainbow Six, we do have Mike W on the Monty again. Is going to make his way into server, and he's getting a lot of control without a whole lot of contention. But we do have Rice here, who's gonna try to cut him off and maybe see if he can get a pick off of it.
Nothing yet. This Monty is very alone. There is a player, but they're smoked off, and here comes the aggression, and then Rice is just gonna shut it down. Absolutely no contest there. SMG 11, maybe it did need to be. Maybe it did need to be there. Spiff
Never
as
say
well,
such
finding
words
another.
again. Spiff gonna get another onto Hectic here, and still, it's looking really good for SBL or BWH rather. We do have Joe getting one, but if Spiff brings one right back, if he tries to stab his teammate, he does get taken down by Nilek though. He's gonna see if he can get Rice as well. If he can get the smoke down, then that could be the win condition. But no, Wi-Fi won't let him. Snoopy is going to be making his way down Marble Stairs, but Nick has the read. It ends up taking him down. A 5-1 defensive half. And all SBL need going into this next half is 2 rounds to lock out this game.
Boys Without Hose is playing old Siege. They are allowing SBL to have singular focus on specific parts of the map. SBL, almost that entire round, was just thinking about server with like 1 or 2 players elsewhere. There is no counter pressure occurring for Bros Without Hose to actually for them to play off of. There's no ability for them to play off of each other when they're not playing like that. And so we see what we got there, right? We just see so much of SBL nearly BMing Bros Without Hose. We are moving into the defensive half now. I'm not confident because
So
SBL, if they're able to maintain a singular focus and Bros Without Hose doesn't prove to us that they're able to build effective crossfires, it's not going to take long, especially on such a large map like this, for SBL to start to bulldoze through these attacking
yeah,
rounds.
I think I do like that Bros Without Hose are trying to be aggressive. They're trying to set the pace. But the way that manifested in the previous round was just Mike W by himself. And speaking of Mike
Hey,
W, he's going to get taken
there
out
it
early
is.
on, trying to get that opening pick yet again by Spiff. You see another player near that window that Mike died on, just trying to see if he could find anything, any source of reprieve from the attack. He does get one on to Nick, so that is the doe could be taken off the board. A very, very good pick to have. But a Dokkaebi for a Solis is not the trade that I want in this kind of situation.
A lot of intel denied on both sides, but the difference is SBL still has 8 drones in their pockets, 8 drones to make use of. The Bros Without Hose, given their proclivity for aggression, they may just walk straight through these lines of fire, may walk through these areas of knowledge for SBL. And if that occurs, Bros Without Hose are not going to find themselves living for a whole lot longer.
Going from bros with no hose to bros with no heads, as it were. We're going to see that stock hatch get opened up by Asians. So we're going to see kind of the execute start to get set up here. The pieces being moved around the board to the places they need to be in order to make this happen. And there is a lot of good utility on SBL to make this happen with the Capital and the OSA.
4v4. There is a lot of opportunity for this, but using that buck to start opening things up, pushing Bros Without Hose off of the site, and to be frank, they don't necessarily look comfortable playing off of that site. They don't look like they have the knowledge to play that far apart and still support each other. And because of that, now look at this. Things are getting open. Now there's so much pressure onto this site from both vert and horizontally all over. And it's all up to this lone Frost player, the only player in break, and everyone else is kind of not in great position to support them. But with the drop coming down through stock, suddenly we're in ourselves an execute situation with Plant going down.
We do see Spiff get one, but Hectic has the flag of the century. Joe tags on as well, and that's everyone on SLB being taken out within the span of only a few seconds. as the execute goes down.
I'm I'm gonna be honest. I
Oh,
don't
but it's
really
quick.
know about that execute.
Neither do I.
Uh you
See,
had so much control over break. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
complete control over break. And yeah, the frost was there.
It's only a
I don't know.
guy.
Maybe they just didn't like the look of the shield, to be honest.
I mean,
And that's why they ended up making that decision. And they did have a lot of utility to try and deny that, but they didn't have the wherewithal to look behind themselves to say, "Hey, what do you do when you make a top-down execute? What do the opponents do?" Well, they walk upstairs. They go and make a retake. They didn't have the wherewithal to do that, perhaps underestimating Bros Without Hose, and it's gonna cost them in this case. Hopefully a mistake that they don't make in the future.
the beautiful thing about the 5-1 scoreline that SLB got at the end of the last half is that they can throw a couple rounds like that, though. They have a
Mhm.
lot of breathing room, and now it's a 3-round gap instead of a 4-round gap, sure, but that is still a pretty significant round gap, and it the ball's kind of in, BWH's court now. They're the ones that have to make up that gap, and SLB, they're not going to be sweating it.
Not certain what the plan is yet.
It's like a lurk coming in from Wi-Fi.
Mhm. Very similar to what Mike did in the very first round of this match, but it's
Hmm.
gonna be a lot more defense than what SBL had there.
Yeah,
I think I think the last round was just another example of them not being ready for what Bros Without Hose was gonna do. But now it looks like they're more than ready.
yeah, they kind of figure out how Bros Without House are going to play their defense, and kind of like last time. Now they're gonna be able to adapt to kind of what this side's gonna look like, and it's gonna do a lot of good for them. Spiff, get a look at hacking these two ADSs, but unfortunately for him, does not come to fruition. Nick takes a gunfight on the marble stairs, but no one dies as a result, right? It's going to be joining off the top floor here, just making sure that nothing's gone awry in that area, as they have a decent amount of control here, but now they need to start setting stuff up so they can actually kind of get into the site and take the ground they need to get the bomb down.
Bros Without Hose has yet to succeed anything, but as I say that, Asian, or Spiff rather, finds a kill onto Mike, allowing Asian to take the control. But with another swing, it's going to be evened out. Joe looking to retake as well up the blue stairs. Not a whole lot of support for him to take this position, but it's something that SBL may not be expecting, which, as we've established, things that SBL doesn't expect are the things that make them lose. Joe taking advantage of it. That's Nick off the board. And another one, Nihilek coming up the main stairs. Suddenly, Bros Without Hose has given themselves a massive advantage, 2-4, quickly traded down to 2-3 by Rice. But an execute is looking like a nigh impossibility unless Bros Without Hose makes a mistake and gives up another body.
Certainly is a possibility, though, an unlikely one given how things have gone. Everyone kind of has a crossfire here. Rice is going to look at getting that down, but Snoopy has the angle, gets the tap, gets the kill. It's all left up to Spiff, alone in a 1v3. He's going to check all of his angles, cross all his T's, dot all of his I's, make absolutely sure that checks things slowly and carefully. Knows about where Nihilek is now, going to go for the gunfire, try to sneak his way into the site and get an unexpected angle, but so far no one is giving him anything because Bros Without Hose know all they need to do now is just wait out this timer, but Hectic holding the crossfire gets the pick on Spiff, securing another defense round for Bros
Bros
Without
Without
Hose.
Hose is really making me eat my words a little bit. They are doing a very good job of playing back when they need to, being not aggressive necessarily, but reading SBL, which is something that has given them large advantages in specific rounds in the past. They're able to do that a lot more on their defensive side. I don't know if SBL is necessarily even telegraphing their movements, but I don't think SBL is using their drones effectively. They have them set up during the pre round. That's good. They're doing a good job of keeping them alive as well. But there's a lot of times, especially when we're looking at, tier 3 tournaments like this, that those rounds where a lot of drones don't come off the board is because they get put down in a cutoff and then forgotten about because everybody wants to be an entry.
Mhm.
Right. That's something that I'm hoping doesn't continue. I'm expecting it won't. Actually, no, to be honest, I'm expecting it will, but Bros Without Hose, whether or not they will actually continue to find those moments and gaps in SBL's attack is going to be another question.
They have been doing a really good job of getting the opening pick, but they haven't been doing a good job at converting it. And I think it's been mostly Mike that has been getting opening picked for Bros Without Hose, and he's playing what I would assume is a much more passive position, given that he is on the Echo right now, or I would hope he's in a more passive position. And so it looks like they're trying to kind of lock down the win conditions that that have existed for uh, SBL, but there is still the chance for SBL to adapt. We do see Asian on a lurk up marble stairs here, which if this isn't read into properly, or if he just manages to get the timing right, then he could potentially get a really, really crucial opening pick here.
Asian taking an aggressive position. Looks like he may have been read out, possibly by the default cam, but he is making his way further up. He is at top marble right now, and while there isn't a cutoff coming through that wall, he is going to be walking straight to that crossfire. That is such an aggressive play, and while it is off pace and something that potentially Bros Without Hose aren't expecting without the support through that wall, the Kanto wall, I just can't see it being justified because you're walking into a crossfire every time. Trade does come back, which is excellent. Actually, the trade did it come back? I don't remember if they actually
Mm,
got that kill and then he DC'd or
If it
what,
was
but in any case, it is a 4v4 kill.
gonna see an aggressive peek from Hectic. Now we're gonna see Rice just jump into the side here. Doesn't look like there's anyone to directly contest him, as a good chunk of SBL are in the building now on that balcony. He's gonna try to make his way into lounge here and potentially get a plant down. Hectic, and why I find him taking a duel. Rice gonna try to sneak his way over by Kanto here and just see if he can find Hectic. But Hectic is ready for a swing to come out. See Mike W as well, just sitting on his cams, making sure that when they do go for a plant, he's able to do something about it.
You can see at this point in the round, there's not a lot of information to be had by Team SBL. Bros Without Hose are able to maneuver themselves, and while they can't necessarily maintain full control of the site, it is going to be really difficult for them to push in. But a little bit of retaliation for Bros Without Hose is needed here. There's one looking for the second. It's not going to come through until Nilek finds another. Now we find ourselves in a 1v3. It's all up to Wi-Fi. There's one looking for the second, not going to find it. The player and janitor shuts down SBL. And now suddenly we're looking at a very defender-sided bank, one where Bros Without Hose suddenly have a wonderful chance.
Um, so there's only been one attack round being won this entire time, and that is and that's the very first round where we saw Bros Without Hose hit a gap that existed uh in this massive realm that SPL were doing. And since then, the defense has won absolutely everything. And it's a trend that is not unexpected, but certainly not what SPL were hoping for when they went into this half.
I really just think this is coming entirely down to information. It We've said it over and over again. When SBL isn't expecting something, that's when they fail. That's when they fall to Bros Without Hose. It's almost entirely just them being caught off guard. If they're able to actually make a good use of information gathering operators, Jackal, Dokubi, Lion, as well as the fact they have 10 drones on the board. At the end of that round, they had 6 up, all sitting on the ground, and none of them droning out any of the players. Not one of them. You have the tools at your disposal to gather the information, and they aren't using them, and it's punishing. Bros Without Hose, we've seen it over and over again. They don't necessarily stand up to Team SBL gun skill wise, but SBL is making a fatal error over and over again. And Bros Without Hose is here to capitalize and make sure that SBL doesn't know how to fix it.
Gonna go back down to open area and break room here for Bros Without. They made a flawless site rotation so far, and it's the trend they'll look to continue. Is if they can do another flawless site rotation, then they win the match 7-5. But even if they don't do another flawless site rotation, then overtime isn't that bad of a barrel to be staring down. I would say at least.
It's true. But it's a lot closer than it arguably should be right now.
Yes. For sure.
Bros Without Hose are bringing it back. Yeah, and yeah, I want to be clear. I don't want to discredit Bros Without Hose. They're doing a good job. And while I say they may not necessarily have the gun skill to match up with some of the juggernauts on SBL, they definitely are nothing to slouch at. And that's being proven over and over again because they are winning gunfights. They're doing a good job of giving themselves the advantage in these gunfights as well, which is definitely something you should never overlook.
Certainly is the case. 2 minutes left. We see a lot of information gathering here from the looks of it from Team SLB as they want to know what's kind of going on where people are. But Mike W gets the first pick, this time onto Wi-Fi, taking the Flores off of the board first. He's going to look to get aggressive on top square again. Almost gets the second, but ends up getting taken down by Spiff instead. As we have some pretty solid control of the top floor now for SBL, but they have to get the rest of that control, and then they have to convert it.
Nihilek is in the boardroom. They have no clue. There it is. There's that exact thing. Not knowing what's going on, but instead it's just going to be Spiff able to clean up another player. Now suddenly SBL is finally in an advantage, and with aggression, Hectic finds another. Why are they getting away with this? They have got to start shutting this down, or it's going to go to overtime, or even worse. At this point, SBL is in contention to lose this in regulation.
50 seconds left. We do see Hectic on extremely low HP. A single shot from either of the guns in the attack will put him in the dirt. Leave it all alone. Or leave it all up to Snoopy, rather. You're going to see some droning being done by Rice here. Some last-second information gathering. It looks like they want to try to drop down this hatch here and just see what they can make work. But they only have 30 seconds left to do it. Both the defenders are pretty spread out here, so drop going down. Looks like it's going to work out fairly well. Rice is going to start getting that diffuser down. Snoopy's going to look to contest, but it doesn't look like he knows exactly where the bomb is actually going down. He does get one onto Nick. Leaves it all up to Rice, but the diffuser has gone down. Nick gets one. Can he get the second, though? Only has to last for 30 more seconds here, and Hectic, not enough health to compete. And Rice finally gets SLB that attack they wanted so desperately.
My God. Wonderfully done by Rice. Absolutely just saving that round. A round that they desperately needed, if only for their mentals, but as well just to make sure that in the very least they're not going to lose in regulation at this point. Which just wonderful play by Rice right there. Like, in no business winning that 1v2, getting the plant down and then 1v, like, bravo. Good job. Good job, dude.
Bravo, one might even say. Back down to the basement here for Bros Without Hose, as now they have to complete most of the site rotation they were able to get before. Although now with that round win, there should be a little bit of renewed confidence on the side of SBL. And they're also going to have a better idea of how Bros Without Hose want to play this. And if they can just prevent people from, for lack of a better term, doing stupid things, then this should, in theory, be where SBL are able to close things out.
In theory. They did do a better job of actually predicting what was going to happen. Reading into Bros Without Hose play style. Just a little bit better. And, and ultimately it did work, but it was close.
Mm-hmm.
SBL they've got their work cut out for them if they want to win this round. They've got 2.5 minutes of raw concentration. That needs to happen, or this is gonna be it. Or rather, this won't be it, but it needs to happen or this won't be it. They
Yeah.
right? They won't win this round. But
Hmm.
what is this? This is some wild aggression they're getting ready for, trying to clean out this warden. Are they going to be able to do that? That's going to be their first key position. It's the first key position they cleared out last time. Didn't work out, but if they can do it this time, maybe they'll have something different. Maybe they'll be expecting the aggression up the blue stairs.
If they can get and then maintain control of this area, that's going to be good for them. But it doesn't look like they have anything to actually like physically destroy the shield. Asian gonna get the first pick onto Nihilek, although Hectic does get one back onto Spiff, putting us into a 4v4 here. We do see Mike is still sitting on that shield. He's maintaining his position, holding steadfast, but Hectic might get surrounded here, or rather, he's gonna fall back into the side and give up this ground, concede control to SBL.
Why wasn't that hatch reinforced?
I'm wondering the same thing.
But
They have
in
three
any case, that
reinforcements
means
left.
SBL has a lot of control now. They've got a lot of ability to look down in, but this is kind of the same situation that we've seen, but completely reversed. BWH knows that they can just kind of sit back, wait for SBL to make the first move, and there isn't really a big gap. Joe, playing all the way in blue, though, might be leaving a little bit of an opportunity, but the aggression between Joe and Mike, finding two as well. Suddenly, SBL not looking confident at all. 4v1, Nick remaining, and while he's got a little bit of utility in his pocket, 4v1 is going to be a nightmare to try and catch. Not going to happen. Hectic cleaning it up, putting us at a 6-5, still in favor of SBL, but the momentum is just not there.
Getting a this match is certainly a lot closer than the initial halftime scoreline would have made it seem. As I think after how convincing that original half was, a lot of us were expecting kind of a lockout from SBL as they just looked so proficient. But the attack or the defense is genuinely very difficult to crunch through, and especially since
Crunch?
Bros Without Hose are, they're all good players. We have multiple players in here who have been in T2 in one capacity or another, and that's a lot of good experience that you're going to have, even if we do have a lot of that same kind of experience on Team SBL.
What do you mean crunch? Before I move on, I'm going to need you to elaborate on that one.
Dude, it's like you're crunching through armor.
All right.
It's like munching on a gobstopper
Munching on a gobstopper.
or a Jolly Rancher.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Bros Without Hose is definitely giving SBL some cavities,
Oh, absolutely.
breaking some teeth because it's not flying yet. We do have one more round for them maybe to end this in regulation, but
Hopefully for their sake.
it's if it happens, it's gonna come out of Bros Without Hose being either completely caught off guard or SBL just being able to expect everything. And I think that's a good start. Asian expecting Joe to be playing there. That's going to be the opening pick for SBL. And now Asian has a lot of control below. And as Buck, that's key.
Joe throwing some
No pun intended.
banter in chat, and then Asian throwing some banter back is. At the end of the day, it is a game. We're all here to have fun, and looks like Joe is certainly doing that with the buttons on his keyboard. Nick is starting to drone out the area that the shield is in because he wants to get one of his Flores drones inside of there and take it out. As if they can get Hectic out of this position, then it's going to make their attack significantly easier. Asian as well is going to go underneath the site and just try to buck up into the floor and try to lock out a lot of these default positions that Bros.Hos want to sit in to prevent the execute.
There it is. Another one. Wi-Fi finding another, and while the trade back is going to be effective, SBL is in good positions to look for this execute and a lot of utility on the board as well. Wi-Fi using that Capitao crossbow, he's going to be able to cut off a lot of these angles that are going to prevent crossfires. Suddenly, SBL finds themselves in a good position to actually try for this execute, but it's going to take a couple kills, and Wi-Fi finding the first, that's huge.
See a 4v2 here now as Wi-Fi continues to lock things out. Asian also has a really good position at the top of square here, and it doesn't look like they know he's here. Hectic tries to go for a play, but he ends up being shut down by Asian. Smith as well takes out Snoopy, and that is it. The game that we all thought was going to be over and done ends out in max regulation, just barely avoiding overtime.
Four, four more rounds than I was expecting. At least four, to be honest.
Me too,
That was
honestly.
that was a little bit rough, and I think SBL is going to be one of those teams that we really need to look out for. But they have got to get on top of their drone work. You cannot be getting caught off guard so
Mm-hmm.
consistently
Yep.
by a pug stack. And yes, they are great. They were doing an excellent job of finding the gaps, putting themselves in there. It, Bros Without Hose, also going to be one of the teams you need to be looking out for. But SBL
Certainly.
just, I think
Just a
they're just a step
little bit better.
above. There's just
Little
they're
bit.
just a little better, just a little bit. They're up there. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely.
Certainly do agree. Now that is unfortunately going to be it from Yali and I tonight. I will be back on the cast tomorrow, but Yali will not be, so we'll miss her for the time being. But we do have Sirius and a caster whose name currently escapes me because I'm a terrible person next up. So we're going to throw the stream over to a break and prepare things for them. So make sure you
Yeah.
stick around and come back for more Xenon action.